morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have a panel of very experienced CEOs that will share their knowledge and wisdom with you this morning. So we're going to start off by having them introduce themselves. As Kelvin said, I'm Farah Gerdes. I'm a partner at Wilson Sonsini. But we'll start with Travis, and maybe you can do a brief introduction.
Good morning. My name's Travis Sessions. I'm the founder of Biomerics, which is a top quartile medical device CDMO. I also started Wasatch Health Partners and have worked with over a dozen CEOs to build medtech companies, with many of them based here in Utah, including Canyon Labs and a few others.
Greg?
I'm Greg Critchfield. I'm a physician by training. I am the chair and CEO of RefloDx, a medical device company. My background came early in computer science, mathematics. Homer Warner, whom people here know, was a mentor in medical school. I decided that I would go into pathology to be able to help develop new tests that would make a difference. I've had the distinct honor of working with some fantastic people, and we'll talk about this during our panel, with Quest Diagnostics at Myriad Genetics. It was my division that actually grew Myriad into its powerhouse that it became. We were the world's most highly reimbursed diagnostic company for molecular diagnostics. I then joined venture-backed boards, about 10 of them. Got very interested in one in the pregnancy space, Sera Prognostics, and we were able to raise $300 million through an through the private funding and IPO, and definitive data are out now. I'll let Zhenya say something about that. She was brought to the board, and now I'm working with this device company.
Zhenya, would you like to go next?
Great to meet everybody and spend some time with my esteemed co-panelists. I'm Zhenya Lindgardt. I'm the CEO of Sera Prognostics, and my friend Greg brought me to the board first, and we're now in commercializing this fantastic biomarker-based pregnancy test to predict preterm birth. Prior to Sera Prognostics, I ran corporate incubator at Uber Technologies, also leading their customer engagement, cross-sell across businesses, and developing a platform to build new S-curves on the technology of this great unicorn company. And prior to that, I spent a couple of decades as a senior partner and managing director with the Boston Consulting Group, spending a lot of time in life sciences.
And Paul.
Thank you. Good morning. Paul Perreault. I was the former CEO of CSL Ltd. For those of you that never heard of CSL, I used to say it's the largest company nobody's ever heard of, because it's based in Australia, and it's listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. And so unless you're familiar with either rare diseases or Australia, you may not have heard of CSL. But it was 33,000 employees, 42 countries, manufacturing in 5 continents. We did mostly rare disease, and the plasma-based therapies was the base business. So we were also the largest collectors of plasma in the world, human plasma, where we separated proteins and made the products for people that didn't have those proteins. We were also the second largest manufacturers of flu vaccine in the world. So many people don't know that was a division called Securus. And spent about 48 years in the pharma biotech world, both mostly in therapeutics, but also as a consumer of goods, CROs, CDMOs, lots of the services that are provided to the pharma industry. So I have a lot of experience there. I'm currently consulting with a number of private equity firms. I'm doing some private investing. I'm on a number of boards, chairman of the board of 3 companies, and a founder of a company. So my brothers say I stink at retirement.
Thank you. So Zhenya, maybe we'll start with you. Can you tell me about a challenge either that you've faced in the past or that you're facing currently that has been meaningful in shaping your leadership style as a CEO or otherwise?
Definitely. We make a lot of decisions, much like investors, and what do you invest in and what do you disinvest in your company, especially projects. And with any leadership team, there's a lot of pet projects, there's a lot of investments that companies make. And of course, we fall in love with ideas, with opportunities, but knowing when to call it and cut the cord is probably the toughest decision to make, especially when there's a lot of people involved and a lot of opportunity. So one lesson I've learned is as soon as you know to call it, just rip the Band-Aid off and cut the investment. It's very important to understand and plan for multiple scenarios of what can go wrong in any investment. But the capital allocation and having a portfolio of investments and always monitoring what is going to be successful and what is not, and before sending good money after bad ones, it's good to be disciplined and not fall in love with ideas.
Greg, did you want to weigh in on that same question as to challenges that shaped your leadership style?
Yeah, I think there are lots of challenges you faced, and I think that some of them happened in early stages in companies, some of them happen all the way through. In the early stages, not running out of money is the biggest challenge that the CEO has. And you have to be very, very strict and be very focused and make sure that you can reach the end goal. You have to convince people that what you have is real. And it's really hard. The number of doors you have to knock on in order to find somebody that's willing to make that investment is huge. You can't be discouraged. And so I think that, to me, having a view of what can be done, being certain it can be done, knowing how it can be done, and maintaining a stiff upper lip and keep pushing forward through questions, through opposition, ultimately you can be successful, but you have to stay with it. And I think that's just a challenge. I think the other thing is communication is critical. Communication with your investors, with your employees, with collaborators. Everybody has to be on the same page. And so one of the huge challenges is bringing people to understand what it is you're going to be doing and make sure they're on that same page with you and can actually follow through with you and become an ally.
Thank you. Paul, maybe I'll turn to you next. What would you say are some of the most important characteristics to being a successful leader?
Well, that's a big question. Everybody wants to be an inspirational leader, I think. However, a lot of people don't want to manage anything. So I think you have to do both. As you start your company, thinking about what Greg said, where you have to make these hard decisions and you got to keep people focused. There's a management piece to that. But if you do it in the right way, then people will go through the wall for you. I mean, because you're giving them direct feedback, you're helping them go, and then all of a sudden you go from manager to leader to, inspirational leader if you can really get people on your side. I think the other thing is humility. When you get to a certain point, it's funny, nobody laughs at my jokes anymore. But when you're a CEO, everybody thought you were the funniest guy in the world if you made a joke. So I'm not sure how that happens. But, I guess I wasn't really that funny. At least that's what my wife says. So, look, I think you have to be who you are. You can be who you are and still be a CEO. Remember that it's your job. It's not who you are. So bring yourself into your leadership style. Don't be afraid. You don't have to fake it to make it, right? People like people that are honest and open and that they can talk to. Now, you're going to have to make hard decisions. You can't do it all by just consensus. Consensus, doesn't get anything done. You have to make decisions at some point that'll stop with you. So as a CEO and a leader and leading a company, you're going to have a lot to look at. You're going to have a lot of things to do, and Zhenya said the same thing. It's a portfolio of bets. The number one thing you're responsible for is strategy. So you have to be strategic about your thought process, but always have optionality built into your strategy. That's a good leader as well. All of these things bring you to leadership. So I think there's so many layers of leadership that people forget about. Just remember, hubris is not a good thing. Be yourself. Make sure that people understand, listen. These are all the things that people know about, but it's hard to do when you're in the fray.
Thank you. Travis, what advice would you give to the entrepreneurs in the audience based on your experience?
So I've worked with a lot of startups, and I think most here would be in that category. I always tell everybody ideas are cheap. I think they're worth maybe 2% of a company. We all have great ideas, but a real CEO can take the idea, set a vision, build consensus around that vision, boil it down to strategy, what am I going to do, and then actually 60% of the success is management. Can you actually do it and make those hard calls? I say I love CEOs that have their head on a swivel. Everything changes. The assumptions, the business model that you originally went out to go do will change on you. And so accept that as the way the world works. And I say even in this economy now, every quarter you should be making a change or you're falling behind the competition. So keep your head on a swivel, be yourself. I really like that advice as well. And it's actually quite fun. And celebrate a few roses along the path. You have to have little wins for the team.
I like that last part, especially in an environment like today. It's hard to sort of keep your head up and look at the successes that you've had along the way. And maybe in that spirit of change, Paul, what did you find to be most surprising as a CEO of a company?
Well, first that they put me in charge. But I would say the most surprising thing is that, people depend on you for a lot of things, but the sun didn't actually set and rise over my house. It's over the people that manage those people. So I had to understand what people were looking for. And it was interesting to me that, when you walk into a room and you're the CEO, people are actually listening. And I was surprised because I grew up in the business. I wasn't born a CEO. I'd never expected to be the CEO of anything. But a lot of people helped me along the way. And so when I got to that position, I was surprised that people actually wanted to listen to what I had to say, to be honest. It was really interesting. But you also have to be careful, because the surprising thing is people will take everything you say as a call to action. And a lot of times people were just asking for my opinion. So I would tell them, it's my opinion. If you're asking me my opinion, I'll give it to you. And I may not be right. Most of the time I'm not. But it's not a call to action. Believe me, you'll know when it's a call to action. So it's just surprising that people will confuse the position you've gotten to, and that's, what people are talking about here. I mean, Travis said, it's like you have to keep your head on a swivel and look for new ideas. They don't all come from the CEO. God knows, right? So you have to listen. You have to do it. And I was just surprised that, people were so enthralled with CEO. I looked in the mirror and I still saw the same, idiot brother that everybody else sees in my family, right? So it wasn't that aura, but you have to be careful because that's where hubris sets in, that's where things happen. But it was surprising to me how many people actually are listening and paying attention. All your movements, all your every word that comes out of your mouth, everything, because you're the CEO, but you're also who you are.
So Greg, I'll go to you next, but if anyone else has a most useful resource or expert that they've used in their experience as a CEO after Greg weighs in, I think the audience would probably value hearing that. So how have you leveraged other experts and resources to achieve success in your career?
I think you start with hiring your core team when you come in a small company. And you have to realize that the first 25 people you hire will, in fact, determine the future of your company. Every hire has to be done carefully. You look for people that can complement what you have because, as Paul said, the sun doesn't rise and set on the CEO. The CEO doesn't have every idea. They don't know how to do everything. You want to hire the very best people you can to help you go forward. It's like building a Formula One team. You have to have a good technology. You have to have the smartest people possible. You have to be devoted to data. You have to be willing to make changes and be looking around all the time, anticipating and being ready. And so that means you need friends inside the company, your core team first. Then you look for key opinion leaders if you're doing a medical device or diagnostics or therapeutics. You want people that are going to take the product and use it and talk about it and publish on it. You form collaborations with those groups. You have to find actual collaborations with regulators that's not going outside the law or the bounds of propriety. You have to find ways to work with them. You want everybody to work with you. One person told me very wisely, he said, a company wants to accumulate friends, because enemies accumulate on their own typically. You want to accumulate friends, and you need friends. And you look for people that have expertise. You might find somebody that's at a high level within a major insurance company who can actually help you strategize about how to get coverage for what your technology is. All these things come together when you're trying to reach out and be broader than just yourself. The ideas are cheap. You don't have all the answers. You've got to really open up your vision and have people brought in to help you achieve what you know you need to do.
Anyone want to add to that? Resources that they've found particularly valuable?
I'll just add that Greg is absolutely right. The core team are your experts. The outside the company is as important, the friends outside the company, as important as who's inside the company. I find that a lot of hidden experts are deep down in the organization. So for the CEO, it's so critical to go talk to all of the folks, CO -2, -3, -4. A lot of very interesting insights and expertise. And as the company grows to 33,000, 300,000 people, it is extraordinarily hard to do, but it's very important. I'm sure you've learned a lot talking to employees that may not be filtering up through the core team. So harnessing expertise and talent within the company is as important as building a great expert network outside in the unusual places.
I'd just say that when you're scaling a business and you get to a certain point, you need people that know how to continue to scale the business. There are a lot of startups that kind of falter a bit because they don't know how to scale, and then all of a sudden private equity looks at it and says, oh, we can help you do that. And be careful of that too, because they can help you, but there's a cost to that. So you have to think long and hard about how you bring people along. But I would just say that I've had to change teams over. I mean, the company was very successful. There was one CEO with the company that since privatization in Australia, because like many companies in Australia, was owned by government for 75 years post-World War I to bring medicines to Australia. And after 75 years, it was somehow failing. And so they privatized the company and took it public. But there's a certain scale that you get to, and then you need to bring in other people that know how to scale. So the team was very good. They were very successful. But I had to change out the team. And the one thing that I talked about, and Zhenya is absolutely correct, that you need expertise around you, and I think Greg said the same thing. You need domain experts. But if those domain experts only work in their own silos as part of your leadership team, then you're still not going to have a very good team to work with. They have to understand all the interdependencies. If I make a decision here, how's it going to affect the rest of the team? Because everybody has their own pet projects. And so you just have to make sure it all is part of the same strategy and putting it all together at the same time. Because if not, then that's a problem. I'm a generalist. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff. And the one thing I learned was that I could see things in those interdependencies because I grew up in the business. I had expertise in jobs in operations, sales, marketing, finance, and also in R&D. And so there were things that I could see across the organization. So make sure that swivel continues to work not only for opportunities and innovation, but also within your own team.
So Travis, when you're building out that network of friends, how do you identify your own strengths and weaknesses to know what you want to supplement in terms of strength and what you need to complement in terms of weaknesses?
Well, the definition of a blind side is you don't see it. So you have to accept that fact and listen. And trust me, as the CEO, they'll tell you where you're good and where you're weak. And the team's exactly right here. You want to augment your weaknesses with other people's strengths. And you don't have to know everything. Thought leadership in this space matters. And setting a vision and then constantly learning through these networks will help you get to your end game much faster than thinking you're going to invent it on your own. It's just not how it works. And so build the networks, get the right talent in, and then also agree, companies, there's not finance, there is not HR. You are a company doing something, and HR and finance play a key role in doing that. So you got to build a team that understands that we are a business accomplishing these goals, and everybody has their unique skill set or specific talents that are going to help that happen, and then let those talents ride, and you get a much better outcome.
So Zhenya, I'll go to you next. Tell us about some things that you find most fulfilling about being the CEO of a company.
Well, apart from the mission, the very treasured opportunity to make a huge difference in the world with what our companies do collectively for the society, it's about people. I really enjoy getting to know each human being that supports the mission. They're incredibly different. I learn more about myself as I learn more about them. As a CEO, you need to be the penultimate adjuster. You need to understand what drives your leaders, what their motivations, what their capacity, what their mental framework is, so that you can speak their language and you can motivate them individually to achieve their best. And everybody is incredibly different, so you need to find a small key to unlock the potential of each of your people. And I've learned a lot about myself and my weaknesses through that. Each person moves at a certain speed, mentally, and execution, and getting things done. And it's very important to pace appropriately to the task, to the individual's capability, to have people be fulfilled, adding value to the company. And it's a joy to see them grow. So finding the right formula for individuals to perform their best and collectively achieving results, that is probably the most fulfilling part of the job.
I think I'll throw that one out to the group as well. You've each had long and successful careers. I think, Greg, you said you came out of retirement because it was less dangerous to stay working. Why have you stuck with it? What's driven you forward to these leadership roles?
I'll give a quick answer to that. To me, the ability to do something that will improve the well-being of people. We can improve the human condition by the efforts that we have in these companies. It's motivating, and there's almost an ethical responsibility to be involved in something like this. We could all retire at any time that we want to, or it can happen. But the fact is, if you see that there's a problem, you know what the solution should be for that problem, and you know how to get it done, then your job is to teach people how to join you in that quest to do it. You have an ethical responsibility. And to me, that's one of the most exciting things about the businesses that we're in. We actually make a difference in improving people's lives.
Yes.
I'll just add a little bit to that as well. There's better be a reason to get up in the morning and look in the mirror, because without that motivation, it's just work. And I always say, as CEO, who is going to care more about your people than you? Nobody. The bank won't, the investors won't. And so that is a core thing that matters. People do matter. And then culture really matters. And you build a culture that sustains those values, and people are motivated to work in the right place. No one goes to work for a job. That's not a way to get good motivation out of people. So I couldn't agree more. It's all about your responsibility to make the world a better place and to care for people.
So on the other end of that spectrum, when things are hard in your job, what do you find to be the best sources of support or strength to get through those hard times as a CEO, which happen often? Paul, maybe I'll start with you.
Wow. Okay. So, sleep helps occasionally. so that's something that was not really in my wheelhouse, But, you have to have people outside the business that you can also lean on, whether it's family, whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner, somebody that can listen without trying to solve your problem, because a lot of times you just need somebody to talk it through too. I found that, in those hard times, and there were a lot of them. I mean, running a very large company that made vaccines through COVID and was part of Warp Speed and made products for AstraZeneca because they weren't really a vaccine company. And listening to, the Minister of Health from Australia yelling at me at 3 a.m. on my cell phone because he had promised the world that he would get it tomorrow, and I told him, you don't make this stuff in 2 seconds. These are the times when you just have to stay calm, make sure that you have another voice to talk to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the business. In fact, sometimes it's better if it's not, because they're going to see that. They're going to say, oh my gosh, things are imploding. I hear all this. So just be thoughtful about who your trusted advisors, your trusted friends, your trusted family are, because they can help a lot.
Zhenya, how about you?
I'll elaborate on a key skill that I think all of us learn is how to wear stress and pressure gracefully. And that comes with time and learning what does it take for you to recover from a tough piece of news, tough conversation, the minister yelling, customer upset, personnel problem that is particularly challenging. I do think it's a critical skill to observe yourself and learn over time and how to modulate it, which stress you diffuse, which stress you allow to transmit just a little bit to ensure that the organization sees that something is important. But that ability stems from understanding yourself, your self-awareness, and learning how to transform whatever is happening outside into what you believe will be productive for the company.
I always tell CEOs, it is lonely on top. There is not an internal shoulder to cry on. You have the shoulder. And I always say the CEO walks in his office and the doctor is in, and all the problems will come. And so you have to have a network outside. Even your board has their duty. Mm-hmm. And so having those sounding boards outside of mentorship is a great way to deal with the stress of the job.
We see that a lot with our client base. It is lonely in the CEO role, and especially if you're a first-time CEO, making those relationships along your journey to that position, all of the mentors that you've collected, whether it's external coaching, but having someone that you can talk to that maybe isn't your spouse all the time, that doesn't want to hear about all the hard things. Those resources are really important, and I'm sure, Greg, you've got them as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking back on where have you hit some real critical points in the development of a company, and what have you done? And what I've found, first of all, you have to take care of yourself. Make sure that you get exercise and sleep. Those things are really important. You have to be balanced. You can't let your job degrade the relationships you have with people that are close to you and people that are friends, and that's important. And those people, you aren't going to sit down with one of them and spill your guts out about everything that's going on, but you're going to find that they will give you encouragement at certain times. You need to be with them. You won't get all your answers from inside the company. You won't get all of them from the outside. At the end of the day, you're the one that has to make the decisions. And so I think that for me, one of the other things that's helped me the most is taking some time and reflecting on what is, in fact, the vision of what the company needs to be. What does it need to do in its mission to provide something better for patients? And it always gets me through it because I see that the difficulties that you go through are only temporary. They're not forever. They will pass, and you've got to look beyond it, and sometimes looking at that vision helps you to put things in proper perspective and make really hard decisions. It could be decisions of when do you have to separate somebody from the company, because the company, as it develops, Paul talked about this, you have to replace the team over time. The company will outgrow the capabilities of the people that are there initially, and how do you do that in an ethical, proper way and bring things forward? Those are some of the hardest decisions when it's time to go outside and to bring something in. One person told me you can't rely on internal promotion to get you everywhere, because internal promotion doesn't bring anything new to the company. You need to have a combination of internal promotion and external. So to me, I think it's all about being aware, thinking of where you're going, and actually getting counsel from people that you trust that can help you with hard decisions.
Can I just say, too, that it's not, when I talked about having another outlet, you do have to actually go to your team as well, because a lot of CEOs take it all on themselves. And look, I tried to do that when I first started because I grew up in the company. So again, I was a generalist. I knew a lot about what was going on. And before that, I had different jobs in management, and so I did a lot of stuff. And so I knew a lot of things, but when I got to be the CEO, what I also learned, there are only certain things a CEO can do or should do. You're in charge of culture, you're in charge of strategy, you're in charge of people, and the mission and vision that you need to set for the organization. I heard Colin Powell talk one time, and he was talking about his interactions with Reagan in the White House. And he said, I went in one day, I had all these things on my list of stuff. And he says, I'm talking about it, and President Reagan's looking out into the Rose Garden, and he's getting madder and madder because he's not saying anything. He's just sitting there looking out the window. And eventually Reagan said, "Did you see that squirrel out there?" And Colin Powell says, "Have you not heard a word I've said? I've got all this stuff going on." He says, "Colin," he says, "when I hear something that's my problem, I'll let you know." He said, "That's why I hired you." So make sure that you're going back to your team and holding them accountable so that you're not getting stressed out with all the things that maybe you shouldn't be stressed out about. So that's just a little story that stuck with me.
I like that. Maybe we'll end with something that each of you is excited about looking forward, either for your own career or for the life sciences ecosystem, or a parting word of advice for the audience. And Travis, maybe I'll start with you.
Well, my comments around BioUtah, I don't think we've ever been in a better position from a business standpoint, a talent standpoint, environment, to be in this industry than where we stand right now as a state. So we're pretty bullish on where we're at. We think there's a lot of opportunity across the country, but there's a unique opportunity here to build some great companies, and it's happening. You can see it just across the board.
I think it's really exciting to see the maturity that is being built in life sciences in Utah. It's a place that this room is emblematic of it, and the number of companies that are here, the number of employees we have, the economic impact, those things are starting to be felt in a real way, and I think it's very, very exciting. For me, I like looking into the future. I was a crazy kid that loved to read science fiction all the time, and one of the things that science fiction taught me is that it is possible to build a better world than today in the future, that you can actually make something better. That's what we do. And so for me, all these things are exciting. I love to hear stories of other companies that are actually changing the world. I like to think about what we were going to do in my current company to change the world. The world will be a better place because of us. And to me, that's what I get excited about. We know technology's gotten much more intense. We have AI, we have tools that we never had before. We're going to be able to do a lot more. And it's up to us to be smart about how we marshal all these things that are happening and those in the future to get to these endpoints. And I'm excited about it.
I'll just add that learning never stops. And as a CEO, as a leader, as a board member, you will continue growing, and that learning is a key goal, not to fall behind. So my parting advice would be think from clean sheet of paper more often, because things change and evolve so fast in the external environment. The tools are so exciting. Greg, you spoke about AI. We didn't mention it on the panel yet until now, but yes, it will be a revolution over the next decade. Yes, it will make our jobs easier. Yes, it will allow us to be more productive. And we don't yet know how it will get integrated and adopted by the society. But it's so critical for leaders to continue learning, to use Travis's head on a swivel, continue learning how to use these tools and operate in this ever-evolving environment. But it's a great decade for life sciences and the future.
I agree with everything that's been said, and clearly Utah has so much to offer. I moved here full-time in 2017, and it was amazing to me when I started talking to people all the things that were happening in Utah. So I'd say we need to get the word out. We need to continue to tell people what we're doing here in Utah, because that'll be a real boom for everyone in this room. Remember why we're here, because, and I think Greg talked about that eloquently, is that we're here to make human lives and human health better. That's the goal. That's the game plan. The share price, the money, that's the scoreboard that people look at. But if you do all the right things for the right reason, the scoreboard will take care of itself. You'll be fine. So focus on that. I used to tell people, work every day like somebody's life depends on it, because it does. And I think if you can keep that in your mind and your thoughts, then you'll be focused on getting people to do the right thing and head in the right direction. Innovate, because if you're not innovating, you're managing your exit. So continue to innovate. It's coming all the time. Make sure that you're efficient, because you have shareholder money. They're going to be watching. So make sure efficiency is built into your processes and what you're trying to do. Don't fall in love with pet projects that aren't going anywhere. Make the hard call. Move on, to the next thing. That'll get you a long way. So, and have fun, because why not? Life's hard enough. We don't have to make it any harder. So have fun.
All right. Thank you all very much.